East-central Mexico contains the landlocked state of Puebla de Zaragoza. Its borders are as follows: Guerrero to the south, Oaxaca to the south and southeast, Veracruz to the northeast, Hidalgo to the northwest, Tlaxcala to the west, Estado de México to the west and southwest, Morelos to the southwest, and more. Politically, Puebla is the 21st largest Mexican state, 1.7% of the country's total area, spread across 217 municipios and situated on the Central Plateau southeast of Mexico City. Its total area is 34,306 square kilometers, 13,245 square miles. Cholula, the ancient city. The most significant settlement in ancient Puebla was the city of Cholula, which is situated 9 miles west of the state capital, Puebla de Zaragoza, in the center-west of the state. Cholula was founded between 800 and 200 BC, making it the oldest continuously inhabited city in all of Mexico, according to some estimates. The Olmecs transformed Cholula into one of the busiest cities in Mexico by the year 100 BC. They started constructing the enormous structure known as the Great Pyramid of Cholula during that time. Soaring to a height of 55 meters, 181 feet, this pyramid is among the biggest in the world, with a base that spans over 396 meters, 1,300 feet, on each side. Like Teotihuacan to the northwest, Cholula was largely abandoned for unclear reasons in the year 800 AD. Cholula fell under the Putin Maya, or Olmeca in the 10th century. A Toltec Xixamec tribe arrived in the region in the 12th century, and in 1292, tribes speaking Nahuatl, comprising remnants of the Toltec nation, triumphantly invaded and took control of Cholula. Nahuas. One of Mexico's indigenous peoples is the Nahua people, who also make up a minority in El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. They make up the majority of Mexico's indigenous population. Their ethnicity is Mesoamerican. Both the Mexica, Aztecs, and their historical adversaries, the Tlaxcalans, Tlaxcaltecs, belong to the Nahua ethnic group. It's commonly believed that the Toltecs, who existed before both of these groups, were also Nahua. Nonetheless, Nahuas were split up into numerous groups during the pre-Columbian era that might not have had a similar identity. There are numerous varieties of their Nahuan languages, or Nahuatl, some of which are incomprehensible to one another. 1 million Nahua people speak only Spanish, and about 1.5 million speak Nahuatl. There are now less than 1,000 Nahuatl native speakers in El Salvador. It is proposed that the Nahua peoples originated in the Bajío region or in parts of the modern Mexican states of Durango and Nayarit, close to Aridoamérica. Around 500 CE, they broke away from the other Uto-Aztecan-speaking peoples and moved into central Mexico. Following their settlement in and around the Mexico basin, the Nahua people grew to dominate central Mexico. Nonetheless, smaller populations of Nahuatl-speaking people existed all over Mesoamerica. Totonac. Mexico's indigenous Totonac people live in the states of Hidalgo, Puebla, and Veracruz. They maintain quarters in Teotihuacan, a city they claim to have built, and are among the potential builders of El Tajín, a pre-Columbian city. They were the primary producers of vanilla in the world until the middle of the 19th century. Residents of Totonacapan are referred to as Totonac in this context. Regarding the term's origin, opinions differ. Some writers have rendered the word Totonac as people of hot land in Nahuatl. Various sources translate this word as Totonacu in the Totonac language, which means 3 hearts and refers to their 3 cities or cultural centers, Sempoala, Tajín, and Teo. But the evidence is not conclusive. The Totonac region was known as Totonacapan by the Aztecs in the 15th century. It roughly spanned from Papantla in the north to Sempoala in the south. Most of Totonacapan was hot and muggy. The area was well known for producing cotton in addition to the typical agricultural products of maize, manioc, squash, beans, pumpkin, and chili peppers. The area continued to be a dependable center for agriculture even during the terrible famine that struck central Mexico in 1450 to 1454. Many Aztecs were compelled to sell themselves or members of their families as slaves to the Totonac at that time in order to receive maize for subsistence. Mixtec. The Mixtecs, also known as Mixtecos, are indigenous Mesoamerican people who live in the La Montaña and Costa Chica regions of Guerrero state, as well as the La Mixteca region of Oaxaca and Puebla. The primary Mixtec civilization flourished from approximately 1500 BCE until the Spanish conquest in 1523. This civilization was known as the Mixtec culture. Geographically speaking, the Mixtec region can be split into three subregions: the Mixteca Alta, Upper Mixtec, also known as New Usavi-Sucuan, the Mixteca Baja, Lower Mixtec, also known as New Aini, and the Mixteca Costa, Coastal Mixtec, also known as New Andivi. The Baja is hotter but drier, the Costa is likewise low in elevation but much more humid and tropical, and the Alta is drier and higher up. The Alta has been the subject of the greatest archaeological study, with evidence of human settlement dating back to the Archaic and early formative periods. One of Mesoamerica's most important pre-Columbian civilizations was the Mixtec one. Tilantongo, the ancient capital of the Mixtecs, along with the sites of Acayutla, Quilipan, Huajuapan, Mitla, Tlaxiaco, Tututepec, Juxtlahuaca, and Ucunudahui are significant ancient centers. At the ancient city of Monte Alban, which was once a Zapotec city before the Mixtecs took control of it, the Mixtecs also built several significant structures. Throughout ancient Mesoamerica, the workmanship of Mixtec artisans, who created pieces in stone, wood, and metal, was highly valued. The Mixtec of Oaxaca were the foremost goldsmiths of Mesoamerica, according to West, who also described their art as lost wax casting of gold and its alloys. Papaluca. The Nahuatl word Papaluca refers to a group of indigenous people living in southeast Veracruz and Oaxaca. Approximately 30,000 of them speak languages belonging to the Mixteco-Soque family. If someone speaks the unrelated Mazatecan languages, Papaluca is typically spelled in English and Spanish. Because the terms are disparaging terms from the Nahuatl language, which means to speak unintelligibly or babble, they are frequently used to refer to indigenous languages. When the Spanish invaders inquired about the language spoken in a specific area by their Nahuatl-speaking allies, the Nahuas would respond with a Papaluca, which essentially meant not Nahuatl. Similar to how the Greeks referred to non-Greek-speaking strangers as barbaros, which also means gibberish, the Nahuas called them Papaluca. However, the name stuck to a lot of languages and even confused some linguists who study Native American languages. The confusion that resulted in the spelling Papaluca with an AU for some Mixteco languages and Papaloca with a O for some Otomanguean languages belonging to the Papalocan family led to some sort of differentiation between the Papaluca languages. It should be noted that linguists also refer to these languages, which include Mazatec variants, as Papalocan. The Matagalpa language speakers in Nicaragua were referred to as Papaluca by the Nahua-speaking Nicaragua. Despite being disparaging and ambiguous terms, Papaluca and a Papaloca are nonetheless in use, even in scholarly works and government-issued Mexican publications. Otomi. The Otomi are a native population of Mexico who live on the Altiplano, or Central Mexican Plateau. The Otomi are an indigenous American tribe that lives in Apache area of central Mexico. Their linguistic ancestors have lived in the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt for several thousand years, making them linguistically related to the other Otomanguean-speaking peoples. The Otomi now live in a dispersed area that stretches from southeast Tlaxcala to eastern Michoacán and northern Guanajuato. However, the majority of them are centered in the Mexican states of Querétaro and Hidalgo. According to the National Institute of Indigenous Peoples of Mexico, the Otomi ethnic group totaled 667,038 people in the Mexican Republic in 2015, making them the fifth largest indigenous people in the country. Of these, only a little more than half spoke Otomi. In this regard, the Otomi language presents a high degree of internal diversification, so that speakers of one variety often have difficulty understanding those who speak another language. Hence, the names by which the Otomi call themselves are numerous: Natho, Toluca Valley, Nana, Mezquital Valley, Nanjo, Santiago Mexquititlan in southern Querétaro, and Enuhu, northern highlands of Puebla, Powatlan, are some of the names the Otomi use to refer to themselves in their own languages, although it is common that, when speaking in Spanish, they use the native Otomi, originating from the Nahuatl. By the 5th millennium BCE, a sizable population of Otomi people had developed. The domestication of Mesoamerican agricultural, consisting of maize, beans, and chili, must have come after the diversification of the languages and their geographic expansion from the Tehuacan Valley, now in the state of Puebla. This is established by the fact that the Otomi languages have a large number of cognates in their vocabulary that allude to agriculture. The Proto-Otomanguean Legion gave rise to two distinct languages that are the ancestors of the modern Eastern and Western groups of the Otomi family after the development of emerging agriculture. According to linguistic evidence, it appears likely that the Oto-Pams, who belong to the Western branch, arrived in the Valley of Mexico sometime in the 4th millennium BCE. Unlike some authors who claim otherwise, it appears that they migrated from the south rather than the north.